Here we go. Conflicts are inevitable in relationships. We've mentioned that. Unresolved conflicts destroy intimacy. One of the causes for divorce are not just conflicts, but this one challenge, unresolved. Do you know there are people who have been married for 20 years, but they still fight over what happened during the honeymoon, on their honeymoon week? 20 years later, they still talk about that.
Yeah, it's those issues that have been swept under the carpet, unresolved.
And that is huge if you have gone to have 20 years of unresolved issues under that carpet. I'm sure that carpet is almost close to the ceiling now. You can't keep pushing things under the carpet before you realize there will be no space in your house because the carpet will be elevated because of those things that are under the carpet. All right. So it's unresolved conflicts that create a big problem. All right. But when you resolve conflicts in marriage, the opposite happens. You enhance a relationship. Relationships become stronger. Those of you who have fought seriously, I'm talking about fighting to a point where you're about to break up, you will agree with me that those fights have a way of, if you solve them, they have a way of bringing you very close. People who have, if you listen to podcasts and you read books, people who have gone through episodes of infidelity and they've negotiated that very well. Usually, when they've done that, their relationship becomes better than it was before.
Stronger.
It gets stronger. We're not saying for a relationship to be stronger, you must experience infidelity. I'm just quoting infidelity as one of those big things in the relationship. That even after that, if you deal with that effectively, it gets stronger. Your relationship gets very stronger after that. So conflicts resolved can actually create a better and a stronger relationship. Why do we fight? There are two reasons why we fight. That's me now. If you go to another seminar, they'll give you 101. But I'm going to give you two and we'll analyze them. Two only. There may be more than that, I agree. But I'll give you two so that you don't forget them. It's differences. We are different. That's why we fight. And somebody mentioned that we are different. Number two, we are afraid. Those are the two reasons. Now, because we are different and we fight, so people try to make sure that we kill the differences. So what happens is, which creates more problems now. So you've got trying to make sure that he changes the husband or she changes the husband, and the husband is trying to change the wife. So that the belief is, if I can change my partner, then we will stop fighting. So that my partner is like me, or make sure that my husband is like me, my wife is like me. So we try to change each other so that we eliminate the differences. Yes, it's okay to eliminate differences where we can, but as long as we are male and female, as long as we coming from different backgrounds, as you will see, we'll always see things differently. But as we grow, we can also create a climate where we understand each other. Number two is being afraid. Let me not analyze them. Let's go down. Being different, we mean different backgrounds, different culture, different race, different social, whatever, status, in terms of education, exposure. Somebody may have traveled more than the other one. The other one may have grown up in the village. All he knows is the store and the high school she went to. The other one has been to Australia, has been to America, has traveled the world. The fact that we have difference in our background, in our culture, it will also mean that there will be challenges. So if those who are not married are here, you look at your backgrounds, look at the culture if you can. I'm not saying don't marry a person of another culture, of another race, no. I'm just saying it would mean therefore that you have to take time to understand each other. Some of the things are a given from a given culture. You don't have to struggle. But others, you have to go learn and study and Google some of these things because you are not used to them. You don't know them. Family of origin. You may be coming from a single family. You may be coming from a traditional family. You may be coming from a polygamous family. You may be coming from a family where your mother was the vocal one, where the father was the quiet type. All of that, you bring it with you in your marriage, and you can have serious misunderstanding because this is how you approach things in your family, and it's not the same. So at some point in marriage, we need to talk about our family of origin. We need to talk about how things were at home so that we can begin to understand each other. Position in the family, you could still be in the same culture, same race, same social, same everything. But if you are married to a firstborn and you are the lastborn, that also impacts your relationship. Firstborns are usually more responsible. Lastborns, lastborns are the ones who are the attention of the whole society. And they may need that, or they may want that in a relationship. Firstborns are more responsible, or not necessarily all of them. You could be a middle child. There are challenges with the middle child as well. And there could be age difference. Age difference can also be a big problem in marriage. So the fact that we're different can be a big challenge. My wife, she would say she's, how do you put it? She's Swati, and what? Go ahead.
I'm from a Swati culture, and then I was taught in Zulu because I learned Zulu in school. My mother was Sotho, Xhosa, so you can imagine different cultures, and I'm a nice salad in this marriage.
That creates many problems. That salad creates all kinds of challenges. So differences. We're different. So what do you do with difference when you in conflict? Because we're not going to come back to this, because we're just going to talk about conflict in general. But when it comes to differences, try to understand your partner as much as you can. Please, people, understand your partner, where she comes from. Please, when you understand, it doesn't mean you're going to agree. At least understand that he grew up in Venda and you grew up in Soweto. Those are different places. You're going to approach the situation differently. Understand that this one comes from a family where there was a father and the mother. This one was brought up by the uncle. Understand, people. Please don't try to overlook the fact that you are different. But do you know that the fact that you are a wife and the other one is the husband, I'm talking about heterosexual relationship, the fact that you're a female and the other one is a male, it just shows that you are different. Females and male are different. I know there are people who don't believe that. They're different. Even the size of the brain is different. I think the brain of the wife or woman is bigger than the brain of the man. They process a lot of things in that brain, all the multitasking that happens. They need a bigger brain to do that. But the point of the matter is we are different, and we need to accept that, but not only accept it, but try to understand, listen, talk, hear, find out who your spouse is and the issues that are there.
Yeah, and also learn to adjust to the situations that usually arise. You know, there will be those annoyances and irritations. So as you understand our differences, we adjust, and there's also a lot of compromising that needs to take place here, with an understanding that we are a team here. We are for the betterment of each other.
Now, let me say this again before we pass. Stop trying to make your wife look like you and your husband look like. Stop it now. Don't do it. After this seminar, don't do it. Stop doing that, because you're frustrating yourself and you're frustrating your partner. Stop doing it. Stop it. All right? So that's clear now. I know it's easier said than done. It's easier said than done. Listen, when a person says, this is what I like, don't say you are lying. That's what she likes. Accept it. Respect it. She doesn't like ice cream. You like it. Don't say, but eat it. No, she doesn't like it. Period. So let's try to respect each other. When a person says, this is who I am, let's try and work around that as much as possible. All right? Okay, so that's number one. We fight because we are different. So when you're going to fight tomorrow, you must think, why are we fighting? Is it because we are different? That's the first one. The second one, we fight because we are afraid. And sometimes we don't talk about that. You are afraid. You know, when you're afraid, it's either you run, it's not the talk about flight or fight when you're afraid. You're afraid. When you are afraid, if you see a snake and you're afraid of the snake, what do? You fight the snake. It's because you're afraid. You want to kill it. Or you run. Flight, you run away. That's afraid as well. And most of the causes of our fights, I'm going to share that with you now, is fear. We are afraid. We are afraid. On says bang, we are afraid. But you don't want to admit that you're afraid. You don't want to. You must be like Adam. Adam admitted, when we heard you come speaking to God, says we are afraid and ashamed because we were naked. So there is that fear. That fear is caused by power and control. People don't want to be controlled. And so you fight once you feel like your partner wants to control you. We all want to, at times, different ways, husband and wife, we show that differently, to have power. We feel when we feel powerless, it's not happy. We are not happy with that. So we are afraid to be powerless in a relationship. We are afraid to be controlled. When a person tries to control you, you fight back because you don't want to be controlled. We all have this innate desire to be free. Don't control me. I don't want to be controlled. You're afraid that if he controls you, then you're going to lose your individuality. There's also the fear of, especially with some of us, closeness and care, disconnection, the fear that we might disconnect. You know, when a person is afraid that he might lose you, you might disconnect, is afraid that you might leave him. It makes him to fight. Fear leads to fighting. You fight because you want to make sure that the person doesn't leave you. But the more you fight, the more you make the person leave you. So there is the fear of losing. When I say closeness and care, that's not the fear of closeness. It's the fear of that closeness and that care coming to an end. Then you start fighting because you are worried, you are afraid. Then you raise your voice, you do all kinds of things because of that. And there's also respect and recognition. When a person says, you don't respect me, he's afraid that if my partner does not respect me, if I feel disrespected, I don't want to feel disrespected. I don't want to feel not recognized. And that makes you to fight. I had a talk with a couple, beautiful, intelligent couple. Both of them raised the issue when I was saying, but why are you fighting? Because this thing that you're fighting over this is insignificant. Why are you fighting? And somewhere as they talk, the husband says, it is because I feel in this house I'm being pushed away. I'm not part of the family. I'm being pushed away. My wife is making all the decisions. You see what's going to happen when the person feels like he's being pushed away? He's going to fight to be part. He's going to fight. But when the wife had a turn to speak, he says, yeah, I don't feel like I'm in this relationship. My husband is the one who makes decisions. I feel like I'm watching, I'm on the margin. He makes all the decisions as if I'm not here. You see? So what happens now? Because of that fear that I'm being marginalized, I'm being not recognized, that I'm a human being in this relationship. So what does the person do? He's afraid. Then he starts fighting to make sure that he's recognized. There are two things. Oh, there's also the last one, distortion and woundedness. Oh, we can spend the whole time here on distortion. Because we have got these innate fears in us, we tend to distort reality. Anything that looks like it goes towards that way, if not, immediately you react. You become defensive. Immediately. That's distortion. It's called crooked thinking. Once you feel like somebody is some of the fears are unfounded, It's just looking and then thinking that it could be this. That's why communication is very important. It could be this, and then because of that, you tend to react until you get to know, and then you say, I'm sorry, I thought you were saying this, I thought it's the distortion. But here's something very important as well in marriage. Woundedness, previous wounds have a way of making us afraid. If, for example, you grew up in a home where your mother was always beaten by your father, you've got a wound already. So the moment your husband raises the voice, you think, I'm going to be beaten. And already you start fighting. You're not going to do that to me. You're not going to do that to me. I'm not like that. I'm not that type. You know, you're trying to defend yourself because you've seen what happened in your relationship. Or maybe your current partner has been unfaithful. Let's say, for example, infidelity. And then you forgive, but you still have the wound. So each time there's something that looks like infidelity, you're going to start getting panicking and anxious and afraid because you feel like your wound, your past wound, it looks like that wound is going to be and then you feel very insecure. So your woundedness, and people who are wounded, even in the current relationship, I've realized that people can have wounds that are not healed. And they're always ready to fight, always ready to be at war because of these unresolved wounds. They've not been healed. So if you've got a wound that has not been healed, and whenever your partner does something, you're onto your partner. Whenever one mistake, you're onto him. You always, at every corner, you want to hurt. Even in the midst of the friends, when they are friends, they says, yeah, Dad, look at her. That's what she is. She's like that. You're always trying to make your partner feel the pain. You embarrass her. You do all these things because you've got a wound. There's something in you that's not resolved. So you do well to work on your wounds because they come out. Those expressions coming from woundedness can come out and hurt your partner.
Yeah, that is why it is very important to work on our challenges as we are talking about woundedness, because if we are broken and wounded and we stay there, we go about other people because we haven't resolved what's aching us, what's itching us, you know. And when you mentioned a distortion, I was just reminded of somebody who's a narcissist, you know, who does not accept the truth, who twists the story here when the other one is communicating, who shifts the blame. So it's deep. It's something that needs to be attended.
Yeah. So that's why I've written there. You can check it. You can Google it. Affirmation bias and fundamental attribution error. Those are big terms, but they just things that happen every day in our relationship. Affirmation bias is when you have a view about your wife or about your partner. So whatever she does, you quickly says, I know, yeah, it's because of this. Yeah, it's because of that. So, you know, whatever she does, it affirms the bias you have. If it doesn't, then you say, no, that's just an exception. Otherwise, this is what she does. No. I know. You're always taking everything and linking it to that bias. You've got that. So every behavior must be linked to that bias. So that we call that affirmation bias, even though at times it's not. But because you have got that bias, so you want everything to affirm that bias. The fundamental attribution error is this thing of saying when I am late, it is because there were no taxis or there was traffic in the street on the road. But when my partner is late, it is because that's his personality, that's his character. He's always late. That's his nature. Yeah, that's his nature. So fundamental attribution error is you are lenient to yourself. You've got reasons that are understandable, circumstances with you, but with your partner, you attribute whatever your partner does to the character flaw. But with you, it's circumstances. But with your partner, it is character. Yeah, that's who is. You're always like that. But when you, but when you do it yourself, you attribute that to circumstances. I don't know whether I'm speaking to the church here. Somebody who says, amen, that's true. So we tend to understand ourselves, but you don't attribute the same to your partner. Now that also becomes the cause of conflict, because then your partner is going to defend himself and says, that's not, and you're being unfair and all these other things, all right? Let's see. There on the chat, I'll give you a chance, even as I'm going to look and see if there is a question that I can be able to if it's not clear, I can be able we can be able to address it. Okay, I'm not going to spend much time here. This is just something, the slide that shows that conflict can be, it can be good. It's not always bad. It can, I don't mean that conflict is always good, but in conflict, the fact that we fight with conflict, it means we care for each other. That's the other side of conflict. It demonstrates trust. Issues get explored because of conflict. It increases relationship, produces growth, identity, and improves decision making. I cannot have a conflict with a criminal. I don't trust him. I don't care. I have no relationship with him. I don't want to grow. I don't want to understand him. I don't want us to improve our decision making. So I'm not going to have a conflict. You have a conflict with the person you love, in most cases, with the person you have a relationship with. So conflict from a positive angle helps you then to deal with those issues and grow your relationship, all right? Okay, that's increases commitment also in the end and demonstrates diversity and individuality, especially when you're not threatened by individuality. Okay, here's what we call the patterns. These recurring patterns, they are an indication that you guys are having a challenge with in your communication. There's a communication breakdown. Escalation. Let me just put all of these here so you can be reading while I'm explaining. Escalation is basically somebody says something negative, you also say something negative. He says something negative, you go up, and then before you realize you're on the roof. That's escalation. You start off talking about the toothbrush before you realize you're talking about your mother, just like what your mother did 5 years ago. But how did you move from the toothbrush to my mother? That we call that escalation. You escalate so quickly. You find yourself dealing with issues that are so unrelated to what started the conflict. And then you know that you're having serious problems in your communication. Once you start talking about a child and before you realize you are talking about cars and other things, then that's bad. One of the signs of effective communication is stick to what's on the table. Don't go all over. Then there's invalidation, which is basically where the other partner is put down. Just like your mother. You are all like this at your place. Even your brother is just like you. So you're trying to make the person not to talk. Then now you're not dealing with the issue. Then you start fighting. What do you mean? You think your family is better than my family? Remember now, you were talking about this. Now you're into your families. Now you're into this. It's invalidation. We need to validate each other whenever we can. Invalidating is linked to negative interpretations. We will come back to that when you put the other person down. And that's caused by fear. We don't want your partner to talk in a relationship. So you invalidate, you make her shut down, you're stupid. Even say abusive language, you're stupid, you're like this. You're trying to hurt her so that he doesn't speak. But then she comes back, she hurts you also. So I'm just like you. And then on and on it goes. Avoidance and withdrawal is more like stonewalling. You keep quiet. Let me read something I received from someone that she sent to me. This person sent this to me. I'm going to read it to you. It's called silent treatment. Silent treatment. that avoidance and withdrawal. There are people who don't talk. They'll just be silent for 3 months, 6 months, 6 years, whatever. Just silent. Kill you, stonewalling, kill you with silent treatment. I just want my wife to read this. Somebody sent this to me. I thought it was good. Just listen to it, it's beautiful.
Silent treatment is the refusal to communicate verbally with someone who is willing to communicate. It is a manipulative and abusive controlling behavior. Silent treatment is a very childish way to solve marital problems. It is the loudest invitation of Satan in your marriage. Giving your spouse the silent treatment is like sending your spouse on week-long vacation alone with the devil. Every day and every hour that you do not speak with your spouse is time you have given to the devil to talk to your spouse without interruption. And you can be sure that the devil will take advantage of it. If you disagree on a particular subject, it doesn't mean that you have to shut down the entire marriage. Instead, agree to disagree. Change the subject and keep talking on the other agreeable matters. Life is too short to spend it on meaningless silence. It's Isaac Kubo Bruno.
Oh yeah, that comes from, that's not what I said. But I thought that was beautiful. And the last one is negative interpretations. Your spouse says something, you interpret it differently, and your spouse says, but I did not say that. Mm-hmm. Then you say, but you said it. Give your spouse the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. Now you're fighting about interpretation. Yeah, you said it. No, I didn't.
It becomes a tug of war, an endless tug of war.
Negative interpretations. Try and ask the person, am I correct in saying this? Don't say I'm correct. Yeah, I'm correct. That's what you're saying. Let the person speak, man. Okay. Now, we fight endlessly and fail to resolve our conflicts because of our communication styles. So they've managed, they've got more than 3 in literature, but there are more than 3. But let's look at the 3. There's the passive communication style, the aggressive and the assertive. Assertive is the way we want to be. Aggressive, we don't want to be there. And passive. Let's look at passive communication. So you can tell me once, okay, before, let's do this. Let's do this so that some of you are about to sleep now. Now I want you to do something. Oh, somebody says a silent treatment. It helps when you don't want to be physical or violent. Yeah, but it should be temporal. You should, when you opt for silent treatment, you must be able to say, let's not talk about this now. Can we talk about this tomorrow? Mm. You can't just switch off and forever, you know. Yeah, that's true. People become silent and don't involve because they feel invalidated. They are abused, they are insulted, and they just, you know what, let me just keep quiet. That's true. It's not a silent treatment. Silent treatment is when your spouse is willing to talk and you decide not to. That's silent treatment. It is not when you are being abused and you decide to be quiet. That's not silent treatment. Silent treatment is refusal to speak when your partner is interested in speaking.
And it is planned and deliberate.
Yeah. So let's not misunderstand silent treatment. It is not, if you are invalidated and the person is hurling insults and you keep quiet, that's not silent treatment. That is not silent treatment. Silent treatment is when the other partner is prepared to speak, but to talk, and he wants you to talk, and you are not. You just say, no, leave me alone. That is silent treatment. You're actually punishing the other person. Now I'm going to ask you now, and you can send this directly to me. You don't have to send it to everyone. If you're looking at these 3 communication styles, even before we explain them, then we explain them, and then you let me know if you were correct. Do you think your partner, which style does your partner have, and which style do you have? Just indicate there in the chat. Let me see. Before we even explain this. just send directly to me. You can also send to everyone if you find. But is your partner passive? Is your partner aggressive? Is your partner assertive? If your partner is aggressive, maybe you don't want to write anything. He might just do something while you are writing. If your partner is aggressive, you just keep quiet. Just say she's nice, because he might just do some passive. I see passive, partner, a little assertive, passive, aggressive. Yeah, there's also passive aggressive, but we're not going to talk about that. He's assertive, both assertive, beautiful. Partner passive sometimes. All right. Passive, assertive, sometimes aggressive. I'm passive, and my partner is aggressive, but she thinks she's assertive. I like that. Aggressive, and passive, assertive. All right. Okay, good. Now we're going to explain, and then you will see what happens when assertive marries aggressive, or aggressive marries assertive, and stuff like that. What happens in the relationship? Let's go.
Tilaman, in the bed. Sit.
There's somebody who's aggressive now while we are talking here. All right. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Yes, passive communication. Those of you who said you are passive, you may have been wrong. Passive doesn't mean quiet. Yes, what we mean by passive communication? He defers to other opinions instead of voicing their own.
Avoid conflict, avoiding hurting the other partner, avoid being criticized, feeling not understood or appreciated, stems from low self-esteem.
In other words, people with passive, not communication style. Remember, communication is a learned behavior. When you have a low self-esteem, you don't want to take a chance and share your view, because what if your view is not good? You know, maybe your partner has told you more than once that, remember, when your IQ is low, so that even kills you even further. So being passive, you avoid. That's passive, being passive communication. Aggressive. This one demands that his or her desires are met at the expense of the other partner. That's aggressive. Violence, abusive.
It also stems from low self-esteem. Hold others responsible for their feelings.
Yeah, you made me angry. Made me angry.
Made me do this. Yeah, this style is used in order to win or be right all. It destroys trust and intimacy. It tries to dominate others by criticizing and blaming them.
That's aggressive. All right. Now, assertive. This is where we would like to be.
Yeah, feeling rights and desires without violating the rights of your partner. Middle ground between passive and aggressive. And then it stems from high self-esteem, and it acknowledges personal responsibility.
Okay, all right. So those are the styles. And we say in communication, being assertive. But there's another element in communication we didn't talk about. That is active listening. Active listening, it's just that a person who's assertive also would give you a chance to talk, and then he would listen. So assertive goes together with active listening. Assertive, I share my feelings. Active listening, I listen when you speak. People who are aggressive, they are the only ones who talk. So when you open your mouth, they say, shut your mouth. Who said you must talk? Shut up. Yeah, that's aggressive. They don't want you to talk. They're the only ones going to talk. And then when you are not talking, then he says, why are you not talking? Why are you quiet? Speak up. Then you speak and they say, shut up. So you never know what you need to do with people who are aggressive. And then the passive one will just wait. But there's also passive aggressive. They are passive. They appear to be passive there. But when you are gone, they kick everything. They kick the cats. They kick the children. They kick everything. Then they show aggression in the absence of the one who is aggressive. All right. Now let me tell you what happens when these styles come together. Okay. Okay. Let's do this. Let's do another exercise here. I think. Okay. Let me go to those. Let me go to those chats and see what you wrote, so that we can. So aggressive person is an aggressive person. A narcissist is aggressive. We don't know. They could. Passive person may also be narcissist. There are all kinds of things. Now, okay. Let me check it here in the relationship. Let's see those. Just write passive aggressive. In other words, a passive married to aggressive, or aggressive married to assertive. If you could do that for me, just write assertive married to aggressive. Just write there, so we can have a picture of the relationship here. Just say assertive stroke aggressive. Then I know assertive style with a passive style. Assertive married to assertive. That's fine. That's okay. Let's see another one. Assertive to assertive. Let's see, right? Passive aggressive. There's aggressive assertive. The same. There's passive assertive. There's let's see. There's aggressive, passive aggressive. There's passive aggressive, passive aggressive. Assertive, beautiful. Aggressive, assertive. All right. So you get what I'm trying to say here. All right. Let's look now. Now remember, in those of you who came late, we were talking about intimacy. And intimacy basically says that everything we do in marriage will affect our intimacy one way or the other. So when we are in a conflict, we want to make sure that our conflict doesn't destroy our intimacy. We don't want to become strangers and enemies. We're in the same club. We're playing for Kaizer Chiefs. So we are all losing, both of us, because we play for a losing club. So we are not in contest. We are not fighting. We are not against each other. All right? That's basically the whole thing. So intimacy must always be high. We must not fight at the expense of intimacy. All right, now let's see what happens when style A meets with style B. Let me switch off this. Now, let's have passive style and passive. They're together. The relationship is devitalized. Intimacy is very low. If in a relationship, both of you are going to be like, hi, let's just sleep. It will dissolve itself. It will solve itself. Intimacy is usually low in passive. Intimacy very low. Relationship is devitalized. Okay. What about passive aggressive? Passive aggressive, you will find that the one who's aggressive will dominate the one who's passive. In most cases, not all. So you got one person who wins and the other one who loses. Relationship, it's a dominating relationship. You can measure domination. When a partner feels that is dominated, it's not good. The intimacy is low. In other words, passive-aggressive is dominating. Passive is devitalized. What about aggressive-aggressive? Aggressive-aggressive, Mike Tyson, no, it's in a boxing, it's a match. Shining. I mean, you come with your judo, he comes with his judo. You say this, he says that. The one who gets tired is the one who loses. But both of these will lose. Aggressive always ends with both losing. Passive aggressive is one win, one lose. Passive both lose. Aggressive both lose. Assertive passive. Here's a problem with assertive passive. So I've got a guy or a woman, a wife or a husband, assertive. He shares the feeling, he shares the thoughts, he wants
for the holiday.
Playing for the holiday, they talk nicely. And the other one is like, what do you think? It's okay, whatever. He's not part of the whole thing. Yeah, whatever you say, I'm tired. This one wants to talk, he wants to share, he wants to play. So what happens? Assertive, passive, frustration. The relationship there is frustrated. You feel like, hey, I don't know how to get through. Frustration. Both lose and intimacy is low. What about assertive aggressive? Assertive aggressive, there's confrontation. Remember, assertive aggressive, you share, you don't raise your voice, you share. Aggressive is fighting. He fights and then he forgets to be logical because he's fighting. Assertive is listening, and then assertive says, you mentioned 3 things. Let's look at the first one. The aggressive one becomes angry, says, all you know is to analyze what I'm saying. Yeah, because I'm a philosopher. You're analyzing everything I'm saying. Because the assertive one is not emotional. He's listening. She's listening. And then, Mr. Cool. Yeah, she's Mr. Cool. And then when it's time to talk, yeah, when it's time to talk, and then ubaba what? And this is what Daddy said. Daddy said, I'm like this. But remember, Daddy, yesterday, you remember what happened? So he has got the whole history because he's assertive. He's not threatened by you being aggressive. But the aggressive one is falling all over the words and doing all kinds of things. And the relationship is confrontational. They both lose. Intimacy is low. But the whole idea then is for us to be assertive, both of us, assertive and assertive. And remember, communication is a learned behavior. You can improve on your communication. We're not going to talk about that today, how to improve communication, but you can improve. So you go to a counselor, talk to a counselor, and then she can help and says, okay, give him a chance to speak, give her a chance to speak so that you can learn to speak. Assertive people don't use the you, they use the I message. We'll come back to that later on. All right. I hope we followed each other there. Let me see if there are questions there. The question is it possible to switch styles depending on the specific conflict? Listen, it's a primary style. It is not just a behavior at a particular time. It's a primary style. In other words, to be passive, it's not like to be quiet. I can choose to be quiet based on the type of the nature of the conflict. I said, you know what, let me just be quiet here. When we say it's a style, we mean it is a default. It's something that you always do when it comes to conflict. But it's not personality, but it's your preferred way of solving the problem. Either you pick it up from home or you've picked it up along the way. But when you decide to talk, you decide to be quiet, that's a strategy on how to deal with this thing. That's part of being assertive. Part of being assertive is know when to talk, is know when not to talk. So it's not, you're not passive when you're not talking. Passive is basically a style of getting into your cocoon whenever there are problems. You know it's not going to be involved. All right. I hope that is very clear. Okay. Okay. Let's then go to when I see a question, we will address it. Let's go to communication skills to resolve conflict. How then do you communicate in order to resolve conflict? Yes. Number one,
it is very, very important to choose the right atmosphere, time, and place. I remember this one when we were in Pretoria. He did not know that.
He is me. When he says he means me.
He was sitting on a couch, very relaxed, and I come and I stand in front of him. And I'm like, Tata Kablung, I just want to confess something. And he was like, oh no, not now, not now. I won't tell you what I did. I can't even remember, but I remember saying that.
It must have something to do with money that has been spent or whatever. You know, there are certain things certain issues that you cannot discuss. You have got to choose the placement. We cannot be driving at N2 between Langa and Cape Town in the morning in a heavy traffic, or N1 or whatever, and then you say, sorry, you know what, honey? There's this thing that has been bothering me, and I want us to talk about it. No, not in the heavy traffic. my mind is on the road. So find the best time, because the environment can itself create more problems. Now, I always say, Sometimes go to the restaurant, go in a different environment and then talk.
Yeah.
This fighting in the lounge or fighting in the bedroom all over every now and again, that's where you're dealing with your issues. Go for an outing, go take a walk and then talk about it as you are walking. It makes a big difference. Think before you speak. Oh, others don't think even after they've spoken. Think, man. How is this thing going to fit in here? How is it going to improve our relationship? What's the best approach? When you go to your boss at work, even when you are angry, you think, but when you don't value a person and the relationship, you speak anyhow. Think, find the best approach. Even check with someone. Do you think it's right if I say this? You know, I've got a problem. Would it be okay if I approach it like this? Think before you speak.
The third one, let's give full attention to each other when talking. Let's switch off the phone. Oh, Hosam, we can talk the whole night about the cell phone. Let's switch it off, shut off the television, and make eye contact. Because remember, here we are dealing with something critical, which is very, very important to me. Even if as a partner, you think that it's something small, but the fact that I raise a concern about it, it means it is important to me, right? And then the other one, focus on the good qualities in each other and often praise each other.